Okay, we are going to get started for our director roundtable, and this happens every council meeting 1 hour before the work session. And we might not take quite an hour, but it's just to do a more in-depth department head update. And in this case, we're doing going over some concepts that our planning director, Wayne Dias, put together for the Triangle property. So I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I know several years ago this property was acquired, the Triangle property as we call it was acquired through some settlement of a case that had been going on for quite some time. And so currently the property is there, and there's been some discussion about the use of that property. Some have mentioned developing it, some have mentioned putting in conservation easement. And I guess sort of the concept that I like to talk about, it just float tonight, is maybe something between those two concepts. Fairhope has always been known for its flowers and its environmental awareness, and also the beautiful scenery on the bay. And so it seemed to me that the natural fit for this property would be something along the lines of a botanical garden. And we have these around the country, and there's some small cities and big cities that have botanical gardens. And so I thought that this might be something that's worth talking about. As you can see on the screen here, that I think it's about 50 something acres. You have about a 20-acre tract that's going to be sort of south of the alternate 98 there, and then also you have some that's going to be north there, which is the bulk of the tract of property. So that's kind of where it's located at. I think it's plenty of land to do something like this.
This is just the Triangle portion. I mean, the whole parcel, and it's across the street too,
That's
is
right.
over 100 acres, but I think the Triangle is,
Right.
it's over 30. I don't have it in front of me, but.
And so to maximize the property, one of the things that you look at, we do have it bisected by a road there, and so there is even an opportunity for a pedestrian access under the road. And so we would have parking on one side and also access through that, under the road.
And
So we have several design objectives that we have talked about, and this is these are just ideas and concepts about what it could look like. These are nothing definitive. This is just a way to get the discussion started and see if there's any interest in this. And as we go forward, we'll talk more about, if this is something we want to do, we'd go more into the definitive planning stages and so forth. Again, just so these are typical botanical gardens from around the southeast and around the United States, and this is something that I would anticipate if we chose to go this route. It would look something like this, very beautiful, very much in keeping with Fairhope's unique identity, and also working with the land. And we'll go through some of those objectives a few minutes into this presentation. Some nice tulips.
Mm-hmm.
Walking trails, active trails, things of that nature.
It looks like it's already Fairhope.
Yep. And so the good thing is we already own the property, and so would not be talking about acquiring property. But toward the end of this presentation, we're going to talk more about some conceptual funding ideas and so forth. But again, the basis of the gardens would be, again, to remain in keeping what Fairhope's about, and that is to celebrate the environmental awareness and the culture of Fairhope that has been here for many, many, many years. And also very much into education. As you know, we have several programs existing that apply to Fairhope for the schools, and we would anticipate that any kind of gardens and botanical gardens would be an opportunity to educate some of the children in school and other grades to come and see this and learn more about the natural environment and learn how to be good stewards of the land. Additionally, events venue. We have many requests at the Nick Center and the Bluff for weddings and things of that nature. And this place, the Triangle property and the Botanical Gardens, would be a natural place, and it's done very commonly, a natural place to have events like weddings, community events, corporate outings, those kind of things. It would be a very natural thing to do. Again, you do have community events. This would be a great place for that. As you can see on some of the slides, some of these events can draw in quite a few people, and it could be a variety of things from wine tasting and things like that to even seasonal events like Christmas lights and those kind of things in the botanical gardens. Additionally, we have the Grand Hotel, and I think they're working very diligently to open the hotel up fully. And there's a lot of corporate events that are held there, and this will be another location to maybe have some corporate events here. Corporate parties, corporate meetings such as that, and I think the Botanical Gardens are always a beautiful place to have those kind of events. In addition to the Botanical Gardens, we have a lot of history in Fairhope, but also you have this conflict between new development and how it may affect some of the historic buildings and historic elements of Fairhope. We try to save those as much as we can, and we encourage the development community to work with the historic buildings and remodel those and revitalize those. However, there are times when that can't be done. We'd like to provide a location to where if you had an older home or an older historic structure, they could be moved to the Heritage Village part of the Botanical Gardens. This would anticipate 3 or 4 acres of this total size would be dedicated to this Heritage Village, where you would have an opportunity to show some of these historic homes, but also have a location for maybe some of the artisans to go and have an artisan studio in some of these historic structures. Again, this would also be a chance for people to come and watch somebody doing pottery, for example. And so you're saving a historic building, but then also you're putting it to use with another element that is very, very much in keeping with Fairhope's identity and their culture and their character, which is more the artisan workshop kind of thing. So I think that would be a natural synergy between those two uses. Anytime you move forward, you need to have some objectives of what you're trying to achieve with your design. We try to lay out a few of these here, and these are broad conceptual ideas, obviously. Conservatory, that would be a place that would be enclosed out of the weather. A natural place for certain events that would be protected from the weather, but also have also plants and so forth that would be more conducive in an inside setting. Fairhope has lots of art, and obviously this would be a natural fit for the Botanical Gardens to also include art, interactive sculpture in the gardens and things like that. I think that's again a natural synergy between the gardens and Fairhope's culture. And then for the revenue opportunities, obviously this is not cheap, so I'm going to ask Shirley Lee to kind of talk about more of some of the potential opportunities for funding and how that would be done.
Beautiful. It's really good.
So obviously, yeah, it would not be cheap. It would have to be a multi-year plan. There are ways to generate revenue, and you saw a lot of those in Wayne's slides earlier, through events and outings, weddings, things like that, where I think you could charge quite a bit, even maybe lodging in the future in some of these historic sites, if that was available. But these are some other kind of creative ideas to get funding. So you can hold lectures. You can partner with universities to do these, photography, humanities, painting, edible gardens. I mean, really a lot of things for families and children too, in addition to adults. The cooking classes and wine tastings, live music. So I've got some photos of some things here. Gift shop, and again, these are all just very conceptual, not for Fairhope necessarily, but just the idea of having a gift shop to sell things for a revenue generator. A tea room, coffee house type place. Here's an image of a culinary garden. Should be a place we could train people on how to grow herbs and use them in cooking, and maybe have cooking classes for kids or families. Here's culinary classes and wine pairings. I know a lot of people in Fairhope like their wine. Naming opportunities, of course, is a big one, and there are a lot of opportunities within the garden, and here's just a couple little examples, but there's so many potential opportunities there. Classes. Got yoga, you could have franchise agreements with instructors to do. I think Richard Johnson was talking about Tai Chi last week when we talked about this. City of Fairhope Tai Chi classes.
Does that mean Richard's in spandex?
Yes, he did actually threaten that. And then we talked about consolidating our greenhouses for the city of Fairhope too, and having our plants in one place.
And I think it'd be a functioning, greenhouse that we use, and I think it'd be a great opportunity to have public tours. I mean, we have all these beautiful flowers around town. People don't realize what it goes into that sometimes, about what it takes to have those. And I know Richard Johnson took us through there a few weeks ago, and it's an amazing place, but it's fragmented and spread out a little bit. What a wonderful place would be to be able to show people how these things are done, how they're grown, and so forth.
Some of the awards that we've received in the past, and there've been many, there's tours for the judges that go around and judge for that award, and that is tourism, and something
Absolutely.
that is a great opportunity for Fairhope.
And I flipped ahead, but could even sell to the public, maybe, as another potential revenue generator. Concert venue of some sort, doesn't have to look like this, but, something to have even plays, concerts, music, symphony, all sorts of things, partnerships with.
And this would take advantage of the natural setting, the natural topography of the land, and also being in a beautiful garden.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there are foundations that are national that invest in this sort of thing. We also have our groups, horticulture, master gardeners programs, things like that would likely invest in this. So next steps, I mean, it's a big, huge project.
Yeah, I mean, and again, obviously the next steps, we have to decide this is something we want to pursue, and if we do that, then obviously we need to have a master plan. This won't all be done at one time. This would be a fairly large project. So first thing we need to do is develop a master plan and have a phased master plan so we know what we're doing when. Also seek, community involvement. It's very important to have the community's input on what they would like, what their vision is for this property. Again, this would belong to the community. It is public property. And then also the multi-year funding plan. So how much would it take to fund this? And I wouldn't envision the city being the primary manager of this property. We would own the property, we'd have a role in it, but I would anticipate some sort of foundation would be involved in the actual managing it and running it and so forth. We'd obviously be involved in that, but I think it's important to partner with as many people as we can to have this up and going. And then also the management plan. Obviously, this would need some kind of involvement like that. We would want to partner with a lot of the volunteer groups, the master gardeners, even some of the universities and so forth, to have it even be a part of a teaching process. And so all that would play into this, being what our goal would be, to be self-funded.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is would be great for tourism as well.
Yeah, tourism is the key, and it complements what Fairhope is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the primary gateways into Fairhope as you're coming off 98.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful entry you could have with the botanical garden there. Would really set the tone for Fairhope, and would really be an interesting way to arrive into the city, and something that we all can be proud of. It'd be an asset to the citizens. It would be, I think, a tourist generator, and bring more people to view the beautiful surroundings we have in Fairhope, and I think it would be a good concept. Again, these are conceptual ideas. The property as it sits today is there, and it's in its natural state. And I know we've heard both sides of development and not developing it. I think this is something that's kind of in the middle of developing it. You can develop it slightly with some beautiful surroundings, but still have it provide an asset and an economic impact to the city.
Yeah, I think it's great. I really do.
Any questions?
Would you, in all of this, and I know it's strictly conceptual, but two questions. In development and looking how to develop it and financing it, would you be open to private donors who might donate to, like, the Iris Gardens or something like that?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think Shirley Lee was showing some slides of similar places,
And a butterfly garden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's by the family of XYZ Butterfly Garden or a corporate entity.
Yeah.
And typically you see a lot of those.
That helps a lot.
It does. And you have the naming right, you're able to put your name on it, and also
There we go.
it shows that you've made a contribution to your community.
Right.
And I know, I mean, we have a lot of people, as we know, even in Fairhope, trying to name benches and things like that. They're always looking for opportunities, legacy opportunities. So we don't really have a lot of those here. We have the brick pavers, and the benches we're kind of all out of now. So this would be a great way
Great
for
way.
people.
The other question I had is you mentioned very quickly antique homes and
Yes.
potential overnight stays.
Mhm.
You're thinking like Williamsburg Hotel and the antique homes they have there? That
yeah.
would just be super.
It would be really neat, a neat place for people to stay. And for
Accommodations
even
or,
Mhm.
classes.
Even wedding parties, or you could rent these historic structures and
Sure.
have small, intimate, wedding parties there.
And I think this serves a multitude of uses, because we have, obviously we have more weddings than we can handle at the Nick Center typically. We have weddings on the Bluff. That's, the destination wedding is the fad these days. This could take advantage of that, but also, when you have these homes, you could have some synergy between the wedding locations and the wedding party staying somewhere. Also, we have a need to try to protect these homes, and we may not be able to protect them where they're at today, but if they are moved to these locations, and people move buildings all over the place. I've seen some massive buildings being moved before, but then we also provide a place to protect the historic character of the building, preserve it for future generations, but also put it to good use in keeping with Fairhope's sort of unique creative side, which is some of the artisans, and where they're making pottery or they're making blowing glass, whatever it is. And so
It preserves our history.
It
Right.
does.
And we
And
do
at
have
the same time, you're
artifacts.
getting a benefit from it.
And it reminds me of that, poet of Tolstoy Park,
Yeah,
that
the little-
structure.
Exactly.
Could it be moved out there and have people there telling the story? And so when you take a tour, you're learning about Fairhope and the history. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. So.
And, again, our goal is for it to be self-funding. I think that we have an opportunity to easily have that, especially since the properties are being purchased already.
It would impact greatly on other tourism
And
opportunities.
this would fit in seamlessly with, the plantings we already do around Fairhope and what we're known for. And it seemed like to me it was just a natural fit for that property out there.
And you could also charge admission, for non-residents to enter at the gate to. It's a pedestrian gateway, but you could charge
But
admission.
a citizen asset.
But also, we would envision
Exactly.
also active trails, hiking, running, jogging. It would be, a multitude of uses there, and so it would not be limited to just people walking, looking at flowers. We would want to also try to provide a place for people to be part of their running circuit, so to speak.
Part of the great advantage is it enhances our tourism, but it doesn't drown downtown in more traffic.
Absolutely, because
But it
that's the
gets
big
people here,
complaint.
But it
and
gets
it's really
people here.
just taking, opportunity while they're here to do other things. Go ahead and just mention the reason why we're starting to do presentations on just possibilities is because of the land use.
Right, and right now, we're about to go into a large process of future land use planning for the city, and I think it's important to get some of these concepts going, because these will have an impact on the land use plan. And so we have a couple of concepts we're talking about for different areas of the city. And it's important for those to be out there because they need to be included. These are sort of anchors throughout the city. Anchor development sort of set the tone and the trend for areas around it. That's why it's important. These things, we talk about these things and see what the attitude is about it, if it's acceptable or not. And if it is, then again, we'll move forward with the planning phase of it, and then also we'll be sure to include it in when the consultants come for the land use plan. That'll also be a part of that as well.
We've got a question about parking. Do you want to talk a little bit about,
Yeah, great question. Parking, parking is always an issue, especially when you have a place like this that would likely generate some parking. What we thought is that, again, the triangle piece on the south, have that the primary parking spot, and then have, again, the pedestrian walkway or the pedestrian tunnel under the road. And I've talked to Richard Johnson about this, and this is it's not tremendously expensive to do that. And so you would park on one side and then walk into the garden from this pedestrian access under the road, and you'd open up into the garden entrance, which would be kind of a unique thing, and that in and of itself would be a pretty unique issue.
And maybe do topographic parking also.
Right. And if you see the topography, we have a natural spot for this where it is a
There you go.
lower portion. You really, if you can read the topography, there's a little area through there you can see where it kind of funnels down. That would be a natural location. Would be not much cut and fill there because it's already existing that way, and so it would be a natural place to put in some sort of access to go under, and it'd be able to be gated off and those kind of things easily too from going under there. But we certainly we want to accommodate parking, and also we're already anticipating, bus traffic when you have tour groups and those kind of things coming in. So we'd have to have a nice circulation pattern for dropping off and those kind of things, but also have plenty of parking provided.
And we might be able to
That
figure
intersection
out.
will be a little bit better too, which is coming up.
Yeah, the
Or
roundabout.
roundabout.
That's
Roundabout's
right.
coming in as well. So
And I was going to say the electric vehicles that we're applying for too, the shuttles, we could work with Bratz to make that part of the loop eventually where people could be taken downtown so they can shop, but they could also, do this tour and not increase traffic. So.
But that is an excellent question, because that is something that and again, these are conceptual stages, and so as we move forward, obviously, we would want to right-size the parking to meet the anticipated demand we have, and even have plan for overflow parking in the event, if we have an event there or something like that. So obviously, those are things that as you move forward with this process, you'll get much more deeper into and start anticipating the demand we would expect, and then the corresponding parking that's required.
Wonderful.
But I think it's exciting, almost everything starts in the conceptual stage, and it kind of gets you excited to think about, and sometimes you have to think big, and may have to pare it down some, but I think that when you have big plans, it kind of stirs people's imagination and their excitement in it, and take it from there and see where it goes. But I think this property is
It's a
beautiful.
lot of opportunity,
It's a
for
beautiful
sure.
piece of property, and I think this is an excellent opportunity to get to protect it, preserve it, make it an asset, but also get some economic return for it. So that's kind of the whole goal of this whole thing.
Who's ready to do the multi-year plan? Are we ready? To get a plan?
And that's speaking of the master plan, obviously we do want to hire, high-level planning consultants, landscape architects, what have you, to really put together a plan that will last, we'll be proud of 30 or 40 years from now. And a lot of times these things are sometimes controversial in the beginning, but 30 and 40 years you look back and people are like, oh gosh, that was a great idea that was. At the time it was difficult, but as it comes to fruition and is successful, people tend to want to jump on board.
I think this is something a lot of people can get excited about, because there are things that we're already doing. I mean, we have a rich culture of art, obviously, flowers and horticulture. We're an active community, and we had already talked about doing running trails and walking trails on this property. So this is just a more enhanced version.
Right.
But above everything, it's family oriented. I mean, it's something that all families can enjoy for a very long time.
And we can all be proud of.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
All right.
I like it.
Yeah. We're just going to talk about this for this meeting, and we're going to do other assets for conceptual ideas. And so just tune in, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you.
All right.